It's The Real Story with Jeannie Ives, and on Zoom with me today is State Representative Brad Halbrook. Brad, welcome to the program. You have been on multiple times. I know you just got inaugurated yesterday into the brand new 103rd General Assembly. I'm so excited to have you down there as a force to be reckoned with. You're also a member of the House Freedom Caucus. I think that membership's going to grow this year. But before we get started on looking forward, I think it's really important we got to look back because it was one hell of a week. If you sat in here as even just a center, not a center right, not just even center left, you're just kind of a moderate Illinoisan looking at the policies that they passed, some of them in the dark of night in the last week. I don't know, what more can they do?
Right. I mean, that's the question we hear every day is how much lower can they go? How much more can they do? Okay, we finally have reached the bottom, right? And I say, I don't think we have. I think they will just keep digging. And I think we need some victories in some court decisions here. You know, we've got the stay or the temporary hold on the Safety Act that will play out here in state Supreme Court right away this spring. So that's a big deal. Hopefully the gun advocates, the pro Second Amendment people will get something going here with an injunction on the gun bill that was passed Tuesday. We've got to get some court victories to push back on this stuff because right now, they came in yesterday at high noon with 78 members and we have 40. So, our battle is probably going to be in the courts because these bills are so overreaching and the other side, frankly, doesn't care about the Constitution.
Well, they don't. And it's interesting because I think when we had discussed about what do you think is going to happen in lame duck session, there were maybe three issues that we thought they were going to bring up. One of them was we knew that they were going to attempt to do this gun grab. And sure enough, they did go through with that. Number two, they told us they had to fix the unemployment insurance fund payment issue. So they had to do a supplemental budget bill that allowed them to transfer the $450 million from the general revenues funds to really the unemployment insurance fund to shore that up. So we knew that was coming to. Right. I'm trying to think. There was a third provision that we thought, well, they're probably going to tackle something else. But boy, that's not all that they got done. I mean, they went right for expansion of abortion and right. Transgender rights in this state. Okay, they went right for that. And then, I mean, I think a lot of people up here that maybe are more likely to listen to me from the suburbs, and certainly we have a statewide following, but there's probably more listeners up here. What they don't understand is what they did to farmers and property owners in Southern Illinois with that HB 4412, which allowed now state control of the siting of wind and solar farms. Tell me about that, because that came out of nowhere.
Yeah, so I think we have to step back in time 2-3 years. I think it was HB 2988, and it actually dealt with two townships and a county in the west or the eastern side of the district that I just left, Douglas County, that the township code, and I'm sorry, this may get in the weeds just a touch, but the township code says that in the absence of countywide zoning, a township can zone themselves. So there was a wind installation trying to come into two townships. The townships basically said, nope, we're going to zone with these restrictions. The wind farm company took them to court. The townships won. Well, while that was being litigated, it went to appellate court. While that was being litigated, a bill was drafted. People from both sides of the aisle signed on to it and voted for it, that basically stripped townships of what we believe is what they had in their code was the ability to zone themselves. And I said on the House floor at that time, I said, guys, this will not be enough. Even though some counties do have these regulations in place, they will come back after the county zoning. Guess what? That's what 4412 did this week. And it basically sets a statewide standard for wind and solar installations across in every county. And the issue here is they said, well, there's 15 counties that have restrictions so harsh that there will never be any installations go up in those counties.
So what's wrong with that? What's wrong with that, though?
Right.
Okay,
right.
They don't want it. Great.
So there's a lot of moving parts to that, but there are counties that are friendlier to wind and solar, and they're working with the developers, they're working with their local people, everybody involved, they're working. They said this statewide legislation would harm them.
Okay,
Okay,
that so it makes no
so
sense.
you have all those things, and the big picture there is who knows best what's best for their community. We have locally elected
Yeah.
officials at the township level, county level, municipality level that says, look, we're planning, we're making sure about growth, protecting our
Hmm.
citizens, protecting property rights values, and because the new Green Deal, CEJA, that was passed a year and a half
Yep.
ago in the
Yeah.
fall of 2020 is not, or 2021, I'm sorry. They're not getting things implemented fast enough. I don't know whether this is an unconstitutional taking. I guess we'll see if it plays out in courts. But
Well, here's
once
the deal,
again,
though. But this actually means much more than that, much more than the nitty gritty of where you can site a solar and a wind farm, which is actually egregious. And I just want to explain to people, they literally to a non-participating property owner. So this is a property owner who said, nope, not on my land. You're not putting that stuff. No, they're a non-participating property owner. They can site a solar array 50 feet from your property line, 150 feet from a structure, from your home. You can have 150 feet away a massive solar array, and you can't say a darn thing about it. That is so close. You go ahead and measure it. It's outrageous. But this is more about siting. What this is, once again, this is Chicago and suburban Democrats
right,
telling the entire rest of the state, you're going to live by our rules. But oh, by the way, none of this stuff is coming into our area. There's no wind farm or 1,600-acre solar array that's going to happen in DuPage County, in Lake County, in Cook County. There's no place that's going to happen. They're not going to have a wind farm that takes hundreds of acres and throw it up in Schaumburg, of all places, or something like that. It's not going to happen. So this is the rest of these. I'm so offended by what they are trying to do to our rural citizens.
mm-hmm.
It's just that's what it is. This is a power play, and this is also a lie. This is one of J.B. Pritzker's lies. On the campaign trail, he was asked directly at a Farm Bureau meeting, will you continue to allow for local zoning when it comes to the siting of wind and solar arrays? And he said, absolutely, I believe in local control. And then he completely flipped on this bill, complete flip-flop, just like on redistricting, just like on you name it, taxes, you name it. He's flipped on so many things. This is a massive flip for him. And I just people need to know this is what this is about. This is about their Green New Deal ventures. It's about them controlling the rest of the state when they are not going to be impacted by any of the rules that they're writing for other people. That's what this is about. It's a power play.
Right. And we're going to clip this video out. It was said in committee and it was said on the House floor again that during the negotiations and the discussion with 2988 there, whatever it was 2 or 3 years ago, that the question was asked, okay, we do this in this situation affecting these townships. The Democrats pledged that they would leave local control in place for the counties. To some extent, that was what the conversation was. So here we are 2 or 3 years later, and what are they doing? They're stripping out the county stuff, the county control. You talked about the governor's comments, and he's going to flip-flop on that once again. So,
okay, so
not a good situation.
That bill 4412, and I'm just going to stay on this for a minute because it deals with taxes, and I think this is really important to tell people. So essentially, they're now also buying off, which this is a you can't make this up. This is how they do things. They say, well, we understand that Ameren customers are having higher utility bills. In some cases, we know that they've doubled. We know that some people are paying $600 utility bills a month. It's a massive increase in cost for people in the Ameren downstate because energy's tight, it's really short, whatever. So in this bill, they set aside $200 million to help pay off some of the costs for Ameren customers. So every Ameren customer, I think, was supposed to get maybe $30 over the course of 5 to 6 months. The problem with this, though, as you had just told me earlier, is that it's subject to appropriations. So it's not even mandated that this is actually going to go through. It's got to come through in a budget process. They may not even see this till June or July. Is that right?
Yeah, so it's got to be appropriated. And I think Representative Calkins talked about this on the floor and asked about it. And he had talked to the Ameren officials, and their response was, even if they get this funding, that there's a process that they have to go through. Ameren has to go through with ICC to get it to be able to send it out to their customers. And it's going to be $35 over 5 or 6 months for a total of $150 or $170, kind of whatever. It's kind of a minuscule amount. And we, those of us in the Ameren district or Ameren territory, which is everything outside of kind of your area up in the northeastern part of the state, their bills have went up, some of them by that much or more than that in 1 month. So this is just really a small amount of money, and it's like, why are we doing these kind of things, right? I mean, and we can talk about all these bad policy decisions, and they try to cover them up with cash from somebody else to cover them up, right?
Yeah, no, it's just bad. Okay, I can't let you get away, look forward without talking about this, though. I mean, honestly, so you're getting a pay raise. Hey, I mean, you didn't vote for it. But right. $12,000 more a year, about 17, 18%. And that's just for the first year because you have these automatic COLAs that click up every year. You're going to get more off of that base.
Right.
I mean, come on. We all know it's a part-time job. It's basically 50 days down there in a year.
Right.
I don't.
Well, it's just insane when we have that. But I guess, I think what happened, and I don't know where this started, whether it started with, the constitutional officers or the agency directors, and they started adding different positions, and they just started bumping numbers for everybody. And evidently, somehow the General Assembly got included in that. And here we are.
And I think now the governor's due to make more than the vice president of the United States.
It could be. I don't keep
think
up on those numbers.
But okay, all right. Well, regardless, I think what people need to understand that this adds up to $2.1 million more in legislative pay for what used to be the 5th highest paid legislators in the nation. Now you'll be, I think, the 4th highest paid legislators in the nation, and will be one of the worst run states in the nation at the same time. So it's not pay for performance, that's for sure.
Well, I think what it probably does is because we work a lot of nights and weekends up here, and I tell people everywhere we go is, nothing ever gets done before 5, 6 p.m. You usually have to be the sun going down, and then that's when this bad legislation. Tuesday night, I think I'm trying to think back here. We got the abortion bill about 11 o'clock on 10 o'clock. I think it was 10 o'clock on Tuesday night, and then or Monday. I'm losing track. I think it was Tuesday night. 10 o'clock, the abortion bill, that was an hour long. At 11 o'clock, the gun bill came out, and that was 2 hours. So that got passed at 1 a.m. So it's just all this bad stuff happens nights, weekends, and holiday weekends. I may have my days messed up there a touch. Yep. I apologize about that. I think it was actually last Thursday night. I think it was
Friday, actually. I think it was Friday on Epiphany.
Whenever it was. Yeah. It's just here during this lame duck session. Yep. So those have to be the most scariest words in an Illinoisans' vocabulary is what is lame duck? And that's when people that live in this state have to hang on to their checkbook because you can bet the General Assembly is going to come after people, and not just financially, but like this wind farm and solar installation stuff. It's a land grab, a power grab. They're taking stuff away from local people.
Well, okay. So looking forward, what's the tenor among the Republican caucus? How do you guys plan to fight this? You know that there's more bad stuff coming our way. So what's going on?
Right. I think, I mean, I think we can talk about this is, I think we just have to take our message through the airwaves. I think we've got to talk to people all across the state about this policy, how it affects them. They've got to kind of tune in and plug in. And I know those are probably overused terms, but I think that's the reality. It's going to get not as good as it should. It's going to get worse. And, so I think that's the thing is we've got to take our message to the people and look at 2024 and see if we can affect real change at that time.
Okay. Well, thank you so much for coming on this very quick recap about what happened. We will definitely be checking in with you as things move on here. And for my listeners, listen, we this is how we get our information because we're not going to get the real story from the Democrat side. We're just going to get their version of talking points. You're not going to hear about the nuances, hear about the processes, because the processes of passing this legislation are just as broke as the legislation itself. So that's why we have to reach out to our friends and down in southern and central Illinois and get the real story. I mean, it's really important that you're informed. So if you're listening to this podcast, I want you to share it widely among your friends. It's just down and dirty about some of the things that happened, and they need to know. They need to know what people are doing in the dark of the night to affect their lives, because it's not positive. So anyway, well, thank you, Brad. I really appreciate you being there.
You're welcome. Thanks, and call anytime.